What if I told you that there was a house so haunted that the police, priests, and even scientists had to get involved? Welcome back. I'm here, and today we are exploring the demon house of Gary, Indiana. So let's get into it. In 2011, something strange began happening in Gary, Indiana. A family of 7 moved into a home only to be terrorized by dark forces that made regular paranormal activity seem like child's play. What began as frightening sounds in the walls and floorboards quickly escalated into physical attacks from an entity that seemed to have nothing but pure hatred for the family living inside. As time went on, the paranormal investigators were brought in, but they couldn't find any answers. Then the police got involved, but they also left empty-handed. Finally, the family reached out to a priest who claimed to know exactly what was going on. But when he attempted to help the family, he too was attacked and ended up hospitalized with severe injuries. That's when the family decided to call someone different, someone who could explain what was going on inside their home. Enter Lorraine Warren, famous paranormal investigator who was previously called in to investigate the infamous Amityville Horror. But before we jump into that, this video is brought to you by today's sponsor. And now let's get back to it. After hearing about all of the horrific things that have been happening inside of the home, Mrs. Warren agreed to come to the home and see what she could find. When she arrived at the home, she was met with 7 very scared people who explained everything that had been happening to them ever since they moved in. According to the family, after the first few weeks in the house, things started to happen. They described hearing scratching noises coming from the walls and floorboards, and they assumed that there was just some rodents living inside the home. But then things started to escalate. The sounds became louder and more frequent, and then they started to hear chains dragging metal moans and disembodied voices speaking Latin. After these events started taking place, the family noticed that their religious items were always being knocked off of their shelves. And one day they found a pentagram drawn in the middle of their living room floor. But the most frightening part of it all was that they would constantly be awoken in the middle of the night to mysterious shaking and scratching sounds coming from right above their beds. Now, this happened almost every single night, and sometimes the entity would even go as far as to actually touch them, leaving behind claw marks that would appear and disappear over the course of the day. At this point, the family was starting to become terrified, especially because they were unsure of what they were dealing with or how to stop it. The family didn't really have much money, so they were unable to hire any kind of paranormal investigators. Instead, they did their best to try and deal with whatever it was that was happening inside of their home on their own. The father of the family tried to perform an exorcism using holy water, but this only seemed to make things worse. And after calling the police multiple times for the unexplainable happenings inside of the home, they also didn't have much luck with them either. With no other options, the family turned to the local priest, Father Mike, who was willing to come to the house and take a look around. When Father Mike came to the house, he agreed with the family that there was definitely some sort of demonic presence inside of the home. So he decided to perform an exorcism and banish the demon. He went into the basement where he believed the presence to be the strongest and began reading prayers from the Bible. After reading from the Bible, Father Mike began to feel unwell and ended up having to be taken to the hospital. After his visit, the family found claw marks on his arms and legs. It was at this point that the family knew that they needed help from someone experienced in cases like this, and that's when they called Lorraine Warren. Lorraine Warren and her husband Ed had previously investigated the infamous Amityville Horror, among many other cases. And they were willing to come to the home in Gary, Indiana to try and figure out what was going on. Lorraine walked through the house and spoke with the family, listening to everything they had to say and learning about all of the different things that had happened since they moved into the house. She also asked them to show her around the house and take her to the places where she could experience what they had been experiencing. Of course, they obliged. As Lorraine was walking through the house, she could feel the energy shift, and she felt an immediate sense of dread wash over her. As she was walking through the house, she heard footsteps and felt cold spots, but she didn't pay too much attention to these details, figuring that they were probably just from the old house settling. After spending some time in the home, Lorraine came to the conclusion that there was, in fact, a demon inside of the house. But it wasn't your run-of-the-mill demon. She believed that this demon was not only tormenting the family for its own amusement, but it had a personal vendetta against the father of the family. Lorraine believes that the demon targeted the father because he was an alcoholic and was using the rest of the family to get to him. In order to get rid of the demon, Lorraine performed an exorcism and freed the house, but shortly after she left, the demon returned. Lorraine, along with a few other paranormal investigators, went back to the house to perform another exorcism. This time it worked, and the demon was banished from the home forever. After the exorcism was complete, the family was finally able to live a normal life without being tormented by whatever was living inside of their home. But who was the demon targeting the father, and why? And what was the story behind the house? It turns out that the house was once owned by a man named Carl and his wife, Helen Acton. The couple lived in the home with their son and daughter-in-law and 2 grandchildren. One day, Carl's son, Raymond, came over to the home while his father and Helen were inside. Raymond was known to be violent and had spent time in jail for attacking his sister. Upon arriving at the home, Raymond pushed his way inside and began arguing with his father. Soon after, he grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed Carl multiple times in the head, killing him instantly. Not only did Raymond kill his father, but he also killed his mother, his sister, and his 2 nieces. He was eventually caught and sent to jail for all of his crimes. After the killings, the house was sold to a new family. But after they had lived there for some time, they decided to move out because they were uncomfortable living in the home where such tragedies occurred. Years later, the home was purchased by a married couple, and they lived inside the home happily for decades. Unfortunately, when they passed away, their children decided to rent the home out rather than sell it. This led to the eventual renting of the home to the family that we have been following throughout this story. With all of this history, it makes sense as to why the house was so haunted. But does it explain why the demon specifically targeted the father? You'll have to decide that for yourself. While investigating the home, Lorraine and her team were able to capture audio of the demon speaking in Latin. And when translated, the message was, "I am the voice of God, the light is mine, and my wrath is terrible." They also captured photographs of the scratches left behind on Father Mike after he was attacked by the demon. In one of the photos, you can even see what appears to be a handprint left on the priest's leg. Now, before we end this video, I want to ask you a question. Do you believe in demons? Let me know in the comments below. I personally do, but I keep my salt and pepper shakers as far away from each other as possible. That's all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe so you're notified when I post a new video. Also, be sure to stay tuned for more of my videos.